Hi, I'm Emily and I'm the Welsh Contact Officer at Swansea University, and I'm just going to talk to you briefly about the UCAS process. So the 2024 entry deadline dates haven't quite been released yet, but these are the deadlines for the 2023 entry, which will be the year 13s at your school or college at the moment, and they'll follow a similar timeline. So spring summer next year, so just after Christmas, you'll be able to start researching the courses available and the university choices for you. And it's a good time to try and attend some open days if you can. This will give you a feel for the university and see if it's the right university for you. So from September then onwards, you'll be able to submit your application online through UCAS. If you're applying for Oxford or Cambridge, any medicine courses, dentistry and veterinary science courses, they do have an earlier deadline. So this academic year, it was the 15th of October. Yours may be slightly different, so you'll need to double check that if you want to apply for these courses. And then the deadline for most of the other courses is the 25th of January. Again, your date may be slightly different, so you'll need to double check that one as well. And then once you've submitted your application, you will need to wait then for the universities to get in touch with you. They may give you an offer straight away, or they may ask you to attend an interview. So that will be from whenever you submit your application onwards. If you don't hear anything from these universities by the 23rd of February, or maybe slightly different for your year, UCAS Extra opens. Now, UCAS Extra is where you can continue to apply for a 6th course if you haven't heard anything from your previous university choices. You can only apply one by one, but it does give you a chance then to apply for further universities. Then on the 8th of June, this academic year, is the deadline for choosing a firm choice and an insurance choice. So again, you'll need to double check that date, just in case it's slightly different. And this is where you choose your first choice and your second choice university or course. And then this academic year, A-level results day is the 17th of August. Again, it'll be slightly different for your academic year. You'll need to double check that. And on A-level results day, you will get your results, obviously, and you will hear from the university to see if you managed to get a place. Also, on A-level results day is when clearing opens. Now, clearing can be used for two different ways. You can call the university that you've not had a place at to see if they'll be able to give you a place through clearing. They will ask you a couple of questions to see if you meet any entry requirements. So this may be your grades or your A-levels to see if the subjects are right for that course. But you can also use clearing as a means to get to a university where you didn't apply to because you thought your predicted grades weren't high enough. So you can call that university and tell them that you've possibly done better in your A-levels than you were predicted, and you can see if they can offer you a place there. So how do you apply? You'll need to put your application through online via the UCAS website. So you'll need to register on their website, and your application will be on your UCAS Hub dashboard. You'll select sign in and then register. And to start an undergraduate application, you'll need to select the year you want to start your studies. So for you, it'll be the 2024 entry, and you'll need to select undergraduate. So some top tips. Your username will be your personal email address. So not your school or college email address, as once you finish school or college, those accounts will be closed and you'll no longer have access to your emails. So it's a good idea to use your personal email address for your UCAS application. If you don't have a personal email address, create one. You can use any email provider. You can use Gmail, Hotmail, iCloud. Those are the most popular ones. You'll need to create one for you to then submit your UCAS application. Your password, well, you will need to create this. It's a good idea to take a picture of it on your phone so that you remember it. If you don't want to take a picture on your phone, write it down on a post-it note and stick it to your desk or your laptop or your tablet or whichever you're using to make the application. This means that you'll always have the password to hand. Your UCAS personal ID number you will receive the first time you log in. Again, take a picture, or if you don't want to take a picture, write it on a post-it note and stick it next to your password on your desk. You may need these when you log into UCAS, so it's good to have them to hand. You will also need to make sure you verify your email address with the verification code that UCAS email you. Kind of like online shopping when they send you a link so you can verify your email. Same type of method. They'll send you a verification code and you'll then need to input that code onto the UCAS website. So then on your UCAS Hub dashboard, you'll be able to research courses. You'll be able to save your favourites. So that could mean favourite courses or favourite universities. You'll also be able to create your personal statement. There's also a personal statement builder on there as well, which can give you hints and tips and some support and guidance. And you'll be able to prepare your application. The Hub dashboard also includes a careers quiz, notifications and a date and deadlines section. And there's an image there for you to see what the Hub dashboard will look like. So your application status will help you keep track of your progress. And as you add more information to each tile or section, the percentage complete will update every time you mark a section as complete. So you'll be able to see how much that you've completed. You will need to input personal information. You'll need to put your education history, some student finance information as well. So you don't need to complete it straight away because it may take you some time to gather that information. You can log out and log back in anytime until your status is 100% or completed. So you won't need to complete it all in one go. You can log in and out to do bit by bit. And then, like I mentioned, open days are a really good way for you to see if the university is the right place for you. And I wouldn't be able to talk to you without telling you that Swansea University have some open days coming up next year. So we have 2 on-campus open days. We have the 25th of February and the 25th of March. They're both Saturdays, so if you need to have some time off your part-time jobs or if your parents need to take any time off work, there's plenty of time for you to see if you can take the time. You will also need to register for these open days, so the link is just on the slide there for you. You'll just register. You'll say what courses you're interested in, and then you'll be able to come to our open days. So that's me finished, and good luck!
Croeso mawr, a very warm welcome to you to one of the first Q&A sessions for this Seren Academy conference. You've just seen the video there about managing your UCAS timeline, and now we're going to have some answers to some challenging, maybe or maybe not, questions from people like yourselves. And it's all about you getting some information from us to take further. And I've got a wonderful list of panel members, but I'm not going to introduce them. Gan nhw gyflwyno eu hunain I chi. A dwi'n mynd I ddechrau gyda'r un sy'n siarad Cymraeg. Emily, we've just seen you on the video. Tell us pwy wyt ti a o ble ti'n dod?
Hello Emily dwi'n Welsh Contact Officer ym Mhrifysgol Abertawe. Dwi'n dod o ardal Abertawe hefyd, so fi wedi tyfu lan yn yr un ardal mae'r Prifysgol hefyd. So I'm Emily and I am the Welsh Contact Officer at Swansea University. I'm from the Swansea area, so I've grown up around the Swansea University being part of my life as well.
Diolch yn fawr, croeso mawr i'w Swansea Jack, Emily. Next, I'm going to go Elsa. Tell us who you are and what do you do?
Hello everybody, so I work at the University of Leeds. I was also a Leeds graduate as well, so I studied biology, and I did an internship with Leeds while I was studying, and now I'm back there as a full-time member of staff. So I just speak to students about their journey to university, so I'm excited to answer some questions for you today.
Right, next I'm going to go to Natalie, who's on my left-hand corner.
Hi, I'm Natalie and I work at Magdalen College, which is part of the University of Cambridge. I also went to Cambridge myself. I was at Fitzwilliam College and now I've switched colleges to work at Magdalen. And similar to Elsa, I work with schools to kind of encourage them to aspire to top universities like Cambridge.
Thank you, Natalie. And what we've discovered already, once you go to an university, it's difficult to get away from there, isn't it? You might just want to hang on, but somebody who you really want to hear from. Mimi, tell us who you are.
Hi everyone, my name is Mimi. I am a first year undergraduate. I'm studying history at Keble College in Oxford.
Diolch yn fawr. And obviously, Mimi will really know what it's like to feel about what you're feeling at the moment, thinking, where am I going to go? How am I going to manage all of this? But let's see how we go with answering some of your questions. Croeso mawr I ti, Mimi, hefyd. Braf iawn cael chi ma. So I know you got some information from that video, but there is a question here, and I'll start, Natalie, I'm going to start with you. How exactly does UCAS work? And what is it? We mustn't take for granted that people watching and listening know exactly what is it, what it is. What do you tell us, Natalie?
Okay, so UCAS stands for the Universities and Colleges Admissions Service, and what that means is they are the single website and organisation through which you submit all your UK university applications. Through UCAS, you can submit up to 5 applications to different universities across the UK. They can be all for the same course or for slightly different courses, which is something to bear in mind because different universities do offer slightly different courses. When you submit your application, you'll go through a kind of step-by-step process on a form, and they will ask you about the qualifications you have already done, so your GCSEs. They will ask you about the qualifications you're currently doing, things like your A-levels or any other qualifications post-16. They'll ask for your predicted grades from your teachers. You get to write what's called a personal statement, which I'm sure we'll hear more about later on, which is one of the quite big parts of this UCAS application, where you tell the admissions tutors at different universities about yourself. And then you also get the chance for your teachers to write a reference about you, and that you don't really see that, but it goes on behind the scenes and forms part of your UCAS application. So that all goes together and gets sent off to the universities that you choose to apply for.
Well, there was a lot of information there. Hope you're all taking notes. I won't ask you to say exactly the same thing, but let's think of a timeline. I know in Emily's video we had a timeline, but what would be your advice? When should they start looking into this?
Yeah, so you often are supported throughout your college, but you'll start drafting your personal statement over your summer break between year 12 and 13, just because you've got less work to do. It gives you a chance just to collect your thoughts and gather together all of the different experience you've got to talk about. And then after that, you'll have several drafts until your deadline. That'll be checked by teachers. You can get family to check it, things like that. There's an earlier deadline for people that wanting to apply to things like medicine and dentistry, and places like Oxford and Cambridge. So that's usually October time, and then everybody else has got till the January of year 13. So it's important that you always going back to it and redrafting it. It doesn't need to be perfect first time. My teacher always used to say to me, don't get it right, get it written. So just start it, and then you can easily edit it after it's been started. So it's never too early to start gathering your stuff together.
I love that line. I'm going to write that down. Don't get it right, get it written. Good. So In terms of registration itself, when you register, Emily, do you have to keep on with that form straight away, or can you register and then come back to it later? There was another question on that.
Na, so gallwch chi, pryd chi'n logo mewn, gallwch chi dechrau'r sort of proses, a wedyn gallwch chi logo mewn a mas pryd bynnag chi mewn. Does dim rhaid chi wneud e mewn un tro, gallwch chi wneud e mewn bits a pieces, a os does dim rhaid chi wneud e mewn un tro, dweud. So no, you don't have to do it in one go. You can log in and out as and when you want to. There's a lot of information that you do need to input, so the possibility is that you won't do it in one go. So by the time you've logged in and registered, you can log back out, just remember your password, and then you can log back in then when you've got more information to add.
Because I'm sure we've all been on those sites when it's time limited and you're panicking. When do I register? Do I go now or do I do it later? But you can hop in and out. But Mimi, you went through it quite recently. What was the process like for you? When did you start and what did you do?
So for an Oxford candidate, I think I started my process relatively late because I didn't sort of make the concrete decision that I was going to apply to Oxford until I think about August, and your personal statement has to be in by the start of October. So I was slightly rushed a bit in that sense. But yes, I started drafting my personal statement in August. I sent it off, I think, late September. And then for things like Oxbridge as well, because it's such a rigorous process with application, is for my degree and my college at least, I had to send in a piece of written work that I'd done for history. And then sometime in November, I sat an entrance exam called the HAT, which is the History Admissions Test. And then in early December, I did an interview. So it's a long process and there's a lot that you need to do for it.
So preparing early can help then, Mimi, yes?
Yes, absolutely.
But you need perseverance to keep that momentum going as well. I'm going to start the next question with you. If you're struggling to decide which course to do, is there anywhere to go for advice? Did you always know that history was your thing?
Yes, I think so. And sort of the mentor program as well that's run by Seren and Slipstream Education is really good, because even if you're unsure of what you want to do, if you sort of know what area you want to go into, if you sort of know in your mind that you're more of a STEM person, or you know that you're more of a humanities person, they compare you with somebody who's already in university who is doing a STEM subject or a humanities subject, and they can perhaps help you navigate where you want to go.
So the support you got from Seren really helped you focus on what you wanted to do?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Great. Ailsa, I'm going to come to you. What advice would you say to a student, to a learner, how to pick a university of their choice?
Yeah, so I would recommend thinking about a number of factors. So firstly, sort of reputation of the university. So if you're wanting to go to a Russell Group university, for example, so they're sort of research specialist universities. Also things like location. So do you want to be close to home or further away? Do you want to be in a city, countryside, things like that? Start thinking about how big the university you want to go to. Do you want quite a community feel with a smaller uni, or do you want one of the bigger ones? So Leeds is one of the bigger universities in the UK. So things like that will help narrow down your criteria, and then you can start to look at which cities meet those criteria, which universities. I'd also really recommend open days. So try and get yourself to a few open days so that you have something to compare to each other. But also since COVID, there's been a lot of really good online resources as well. So if you don't feel like you want to travel to 10 different open days, especially when a lot of them are on the same day, you can go onto the online resources and do like a virtual tour and speak to students on there through what's called Uni Buddy, which is on a lot of the uni websites. So that will help you make your decision. But yeah, the open day, when I was deciding where to go, I really felt at home at Leeds compared to other ones that I'd been to. It was just that sudden feeling. So that does come to you when you visit.
And I can endorse that to parents or carers listening and watching. I remember going to open days with my daughter, and we knew straight away, more or less, that's the place for her. Location is one thing, subject choice is another. Mimi knew really she'd focus her ideas on history. Natalie, what would be your advice in terms of subject choice or course choice, as well as location choice?
So I think it's really important to think about what you want to get out of a degree, and whether you would rather go to a university and study a degree because you enjoy the subject, or because you want to go into a particular vocation. So for instance, if you want to be a doctor, you need to do a medicine degree. There's kind of no two ways about it. But for lots and lots of other careers, you can get into that job doing any degree at all. So for instance, I also did history, and I didn't really have a clue of what I was going to do after that, but I knew that it would open a lot of different doors to a lot of different careers. So I would say don't focus too hard on the career after the degree, but focus on what you would enjoy doing for 3 years, because you're going to spend a lot of time doing that subject over the 3 or 4 years you're at university, so you may as well enjoy it. And I think if you're struggling to narrow it down to different subjects, doing some research into what they would involve. So if you've studied them at A level, then perhaps just going beyond the syllabus a little bit, doing your own research and seeing if you enjoy studying that subject when no one's making you do it, when you're not being set homework or revision. That's a really good test of whether you'd enjoy the subject at university. But you can also look into joint honours courses where you study kind of more than one subject at a time. So I was planning for a long time to study history and politics. Some people at Oxford, you can do philosophy, politics and economics and combine 3 different subjects. And lots of different universities do those combinations. So if you're really struggling to narrow it down, there is ways to study more than one subject as well.
Emily, unrhyw beth ti eisiau ychwanegu at hynna wrth ddewis pwnc ag ati?
So o'n i yn yr un sefyllfa, o'n i ddim yn gwybod yn union beth o'n i moyn wneud o'r dechreuad. So beth nes i oedd mynd i diwrnodau agored a cael taster sessions. So o'n i'n cael fel mini subject sessions ar, fi credu es i hanes eto, es i addysgrifyddol a es i psycholeg fi'n credu, a jyst i cael rhyw fath o ffeel a teimlad am sut oedd eistedd mewn darlith yn y pwnc yna. A wedyn o'n i wedi wneud penderfyniad wedyn pa pwnc o'n i yn eisiau mynd i. A wedyn nes i fwy o diwrnodau agored wedyn am y pwnc yna yn specific. So I didn't really know what subject that I wanted to study from the off. So I went to open days and I had mini taster sessions for different subjects. So I did open days for history, religious studies and psychology. And it just gave me like a little feel for lectures and what it would be like in those subjects before I actually made a decision then on the specific subject I wanted to study. And then from there on, then I went to open day specifically for religious studies because that's what I studied. And then it did make me feel, you know, a bit more ready to apply for that subject then.
So when we are thinking of managing that UCAS timeline, there is a lot of opportunity for you all watching this afternoon, this evening, on doing the research. Don't expect yourself to know exactly what to put on that form straight away. Do your research, those taster sessions, and as we heard from Elsa, those online sessions are more abundant now than they used to be. Mimi, how did you think of your other options and what did you do about those? Obviously, you got into your first choice, but how did you select other courses or other universities to put on your UCAS form?
So for all 5 of my universities, I chose to apply for history. And then sort of the matter of choosing my other universities that weren't Oxford, I did not get the chance really to go to physical open days, being sort of during the time of COVID. So I did a lot of online research for a lot of different universities. Quite a couple of universities will often provide sort of the different modules that you can take and you can choose throughout the different years. So I was sort of having a look at what modules different universities were offering and sort of seeing what I thought I would like and enjoy. So I sort of managed to whittle it down to sort of like location. I prefer to sort of be somewhere a little bit busier with some more things going on, and sort of what modules in different universities I thought I was really going to enjoy.
Great, lovely. Back to managing that timeline. Natalie, there's a question here. Is it better to submit your applications as early as possible? Does that give you an advantage?
No, not at all. So it can be quite helpful to get it off your mind. If you've redrafted your personal statement multiple times and you're happy with it, we would advise you to just get rid of it, send it off, send it over to us, and then you can't make any more changes. But we don't look at the applications until deadline has passed. And so for Oxbridge, that's October the 15th. So after the October 15th, we get all the applications together and start processing them. But before then, they just sort of sit in our inbox and we ignore them for a little while. So it's only for your benefit if you have had enough of redrafting and want to get rid of it.
Thanks, Natalie. Ailsa, I'm following on from that. What happens after we apply? So after they've applied, tell us the process. What happens afterwards?
Yeah, so the admissions tutor will read your application. At our university, the first thing they do, especially for competitive courses, is check that your predicted grades match the entry criteria, or very closely match, maybe only 1 grade difference. Other than if they don't match closely enough, we don't look at the rest of the application for a lot of our courses, just because we have so many applicants. So make sure you're making those realistic choices when you apply, and that it does closely match your predicted grades for your first choice. After that, the admissions tutor will read through your application, and that person is knowledgeable in that subject. So if you've put technical knowledge and technical things you're interested in, they will understand what you're talking about. They'll go through that and then decide whether they want to give you either a place, or if it's a course that has an interview, they'll think about the interview process. So there isn't really a time that we can say that you'll have heard back by. Some people hear immediately, some people it takes quite a few weeks, and people come up to me when I'm at these sort of events and say, why haven't I got one yet? And it's like, it just takes a while sometimes. It doesn't mean you haven't got a place. So yeah, and then you'll receive either your offer that's conditional once you've got your A-level results, or you'll receive an invitation to come and visit us for an interview.
And obviously different universities have got their different kind of timelines about responding. All sounds a bit stressful. This question's a good one, or maybe not a good one. How do I deal with the stress after submitting an application and waiting for that feedback? Mimi, how did you deal with it? Was it stressful?
It is stressful, I won't lie to you, because you know, even once you've sent it and it's away and it's off, you're still sort of thinking, you know, sometimes you have those afterthoughts of, oh, I should have changed this, or I could have written that instead of writing this. But I think honestly the best thing to do is try and put it out of your brain altogether. Focus on your A-levels and your A-level revision, because if you do that, there's sort of less time to think about UCAS, and then when the emails start coming through, it's a nice surprise because you've forgotten about it.
So that's how you dealt with it. You sound so relaxed and you're smiling and happy talking about that stressful period. But trying to focus on what will get you there should you get that offer and all of that as well. Now, those of you who are members of staff, there's a question here. Can learners apply for both British and American schools? Who'd like to answer that one? I don't want to pinpoint anybody. Natalie, oh, well done, hand up.
Yes, you can. So UCAS covers UK universities. American universities operate quite differently. Usually you'll apply directly to the American university rather than through a centralised system like UCAS. So you get 5 choices for UK universities through UCAS, and then for America you apply separately and for as many universities as you want. Do be aware that most universities in America have application fees, which can be quite high. So just be aware that if you're applying to lots of American universities, it might put you a little bit out of pocket. But if that's what you want to do, then you're well within your rights to apply for both the UK and America, and lots of students do.
Thanks, Natalie. That's an A-star answer. Yes, Ailsa.
And just to mention something that's slightly related, but not completely, if you're not entirely sure about applying to UCAS, for example, if you're thinking, I might do a degree apprenticeship or I might go down that route instead, you can still apply to both at the same time. It's much easier to retract your application from UCAS than to get to December and think, oh no, I think I do want to go actually, and then have to really quickly do your application. So if you're in two minds, or if you're thinking about the American or the UK, you can do both and then just retract your application at a later date.
And is that true about those, I'm thinking of the musicians who might be online today with regard to going to conservatoires? What's the process with them? Is that a similar process, Elsa?
Yeah, so I know from my experience, my friend went to Leeds Conservatoire. She did it through UCAS, but other ones might be slightly different. But yeah, you can definitely do a UCAS application and then either decide not to send it off or to send it and retract it if you have got a place elsewhere. So it is quite easy to do that.
Diolch yn fawr, Elsa. Cwestiwn I ti, Emily, fan hyn. What does your, and I'm asking it in English, what does your firm choice mean? Somebody doesn't understand that business of firm choice. What does that mean? How would you explain that?
So yn y bôn, eich dewis cynta, so your first choice. So y prifysgol byddech chi'n licio fynd i, yr un byddech chi really, really licio mynd i. So yeah, mae fe just lle byddech chi'n credu falle bydd eich predicted grades yn gallu rhoi lle i chi yn y prifysgol yna yn wneud y pwnc chi eisiau astudio. So yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Fi di anghofio beth oedd y cwestiwn nawr, sorry.
Well, you've just answered. Firm choice means first choice, and if you get that offer.
Yeah, so firm choice just means your first choice. So it's the university that you do really want to go to study the subjects that you really want to study. And then you'll have a second choice then. So just treat it as the university that you do really want to go to study the subject you really want to study.
Right. Diolch yn fawr I ti, Emily. I'm going to come to you now, Mimi, again. It says here, you mentioned the mentorship help that you got through Seren. This question is specifically, I can't get my words out now. What guidance and support would you receive during that UCAS timeline? Who helped you? You talked about the mentoring support you got. Was there anybody else who helped you manage that timeline or ease the stress or whatever? Who did you seek support from?
So family can always be a big source of support. My mum was very helpful in getting me to stop stressing about everything. And as well for sort of like specifically my UCAS stuff and my personal statements and the interviews and that, my head of year, Miss Jones, give her a shout out. She was so lovely, so helpful with absolutely everything. So yeah, if you can get support from your head of years, or perhaps if you knew you wanted to do a maths degree, something like that, you can try and get support from your maths teachers. That can always be so helpful.
Great. So you can ask the audience, you can phone a friend, and you can ask Miss Jones from St Cyrus, so they're all there to help you. But also you, Seren learners, remember your hub coordinators are also there to support you. There is a vast network of people who want to give you that support. How do I calculate my UCAS points? Natalie, I'm picking on you on that one.
That's okay, I can do that one. So UCAS points are used by some universities to form an offer. So when you receive an offer from a university, it might say you have to get AAB in your A-levels, or it might say you need to get 96 UCAS points. And the easiest way to translate that is to simply Google UCAS points calculator. And the UCAS website has a handy tool where you can input a different selection of grades for your subjects, and it'll calculate the points for you. And so if you receive an offer for, say, 96 UCAS points, you can put in your A-level grades or what you think you might get in your A-levels, and it'll tell you how many points you need to get and what grades that means. And so it's not used by all universities. Some universities do simply just use A-level grades or other qualifications, but the easiest way to do is just Google this calculator and it'll tell you what you need.
Elsa, you're agreeing. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, so sometimes it's not just your grades that add up for your UCAS points. Some universities count things like the EPQ, the extended project qualification. That sometimes counts for a few UCAS points. Things like music exams and music grades, sometimes they can count as well. So it might also ask you to add in things like that to see what your total is. But it just allows for a bit of flexibility so that for example, 3Bs could have the same amount of points as A, B, C or something like that. So it would give a bit more flexibility with your grades.
Thanks, Elsa. And I think you first referred to that personal statement, or was it Natalie, maybe earlier on this call? We've got to tackle that. There are a few questions. There's a range of questions about where to start with personal statement. What did you write in your personal statement? We won't get you to answer each of those, the four of you, but also, you know, how do you tackle what makes an excellent personal statement? Emily, what would be your top tip for a personal statement?
Write about your experiences. So ysgrifennwch am eich profiadau chi. Chi di wneud e, so chi'n gwybod beth chi'n siarad am, a ychwanegu sgiliau chi hefyd. So os oes unrhyw profiad gwaith gyda chi, unrhyw sgiliau sydd yn mynd i helpu chi yn y prifysgol, so os ydych chi'n gwneud cwrs fel occupational therapy, enghraifft, mae fe'n rili dda i ychwanegu sgiliau chi wedi defnyddio yn yr ysgol falle, a byddwch chi'n gallu trawsnewid wedyn i defnyddio yn y cwrs byddwch chi'n astudio wedyn. So I would start with some skills. Because obviously they're the things that you've had doing, so they're the skills that you are developing at the moment. If you have work experience, include that as well. For example, if you are going to apply for a course like occupational therapy, it's good to include work experience and any skills that you are developing at the moment, which you can then transfer over to your studies for your subject there as well.
Diolch, Emily. So Mimi, don't be embarrassed now. Don't be shy. What did you write in yours, or how did you set about writing it and getting it right, with the help of Miss Jones from St Cyrus, of course?
So this is where I would say being passionate about your subject is very, very important, because passion comes across very easily in writing. So I sort of remember I had tried to structure mine very clearly, so I can see it in front of me now, just sort of in my mind. I had a paragraph on why I wanted to study history and what history meant to me. And then I tried to show them that I had passion for the subject outside of school. So I had, you know, because they don't just want to hear, oh, I do this because I like doing it in school. You know, at this point, they want you to be very passionate about it. So I'd taken it upon myself to read some books on areas of history that I was really interested in. And in the end, I chose 2 books that I really wanted to write about. And I wrote about how formative the experience of reading the book was. I talked about the writing style in the book a little bit, whether I liked it or not. And I talked about what I had gained from reading those books. And then I had a little paragraph at the end, which had sort of given, again, some academic experiences that I'd had outside of school. So the Open University do these really helpful courses called Open Learn. They're open to anyone. You can sort through different courses. So I think I did one that required maybe 3 hours of my time during a week. But then it's just really helpful to have that to put on there. And I also wrote a little bit about my experience of going to the Seren residential summer school at Jesus College up here in Oxford. So I wrote a little bit about that as well, and what I'd been able to take away from that experience. I feel like I've gone on forever. It's obviously it was much more condensed than that, because you only get a certain amount of characters, but that's sort of everything. I really try to jam pack stuff in there.
But it's lovely that you were being so honest with us, Mimi, because you remember it well. It shows the thought that went into that process for you, and it's still, that clarity has come over for us listening to you answering that question. Natalie, what would be your tip regarding persuading people that, you know, they really need to catch up with them and get a place at that university?
I think my advice would always be to really engage with what people are writing in their personal statements, and not just saying, oh, I read this book, but what makes you stand out is having an opinion on that book, and you're really encouraged to do that. It might not be something you're too familiar with at school, but we really do encourage kind of independent and critical thinking. And so what makes applicants stand out is when they have their own opinions on something they've read or watched or listened to, and they can engage with, like Mimi said, the writing style or the arguments, or how different authors disagree with each other. That's what really shows, especially for humanities subjects, that you're engaging with the writing, and that's a really important skill for when you're at university. It's slightly different for sciences courses. I'm not sure if Ailsa is probably a better place to talk about those ones, but that's a good tip for humanities.
We're passing the baton on to Ailsa. What would you like to add, Ailsa?
Yeah, so I'll just talk about my experience applying and then a little tip from the university side after. But yeah, I applied to biology. So I remember I did a section on parasites and how they can change how a different animal functions completely, which I actually ended up doing my dissertation about. There's a certain thing that infects rats that makes them like cats and not hate them anymore, so then it passes the disease on, basically. But I wrote a big thing about that and how interested I was with it, so that I knew that the admissions tutor that was reading it had taught or might be involved in sort of the studying about the research in that area at the university. I also did just about why I love biology, how my teacher inspired me. Again, those courses that you can do outside of your studies. There's a different one. There's a website called Future Learn, and they're called MOOCs. So it's massive online open courses. And again, there's different levels of commitment. You could do 1 hour a week for 4 weeks. You could do it all in 1 week, things like that. And you can come out with a certificate, and you can talk about that in your application as well. From the university side of it, we recommend that people try and follow the ABC method. So firstly, you talk about an activity that you did, so whether that's work experience or a book you've read or anything like that. Then benefit, so how that's helped you, what skills you've developed with that. And then course, so how that's going to help you going forward. So then try and link everything back to the course throughout the whole application.
Excellent responses. I'm so glad you're giving tips and links for people to further their study and their how to prepare for this, managing the timeline. So in terms of, we're talking now managing timeline, coming towards the end of our chat, if you all had one top tip to give the learners who are listening now on managing that timeline, what would you say to them? Emily, I'm going to start with you. What piece of advice would you give them?
It's never too early to start researching. So if you are unsure, but it's not the academic year for you to actually apply, just have a look. You can go online, you can go onto the different universities' web pages, see what they have to offer. You can even have a little search through UCAS, see what courses are on offer as well, just to give you a feel. So yeah, don't leave it until the last minute. That would be my tip. Yeah.
And that's a great tip, Emily, because now is the time, although, you know, they're in year 12, the people are with us now, but don't think you have to wait until later. You can start doing that research now, and the links that you've been given by Mimi and Ailsa and everybody now, you can work on that now. Diolch yn fawr I ti, Emily. Natalie, top tip.
Sure. Another link that I think could be useful is a website called Inside Uni, and this is a project run by Oxford and Cambridge students. I used to run it when I was a Cambridge student, and now there's a whole new team working on it, but they have what's called subject guides for every single subject offered at Oxford and Cambridge, but also other universities. And so within those guides, there are lots of different resources that you can use to explore the subject outside of school. You might find something you're really interested in, might be able to confirm to you that that subject is the right choice for you, or confirm that it's not. And it's good to know that before you apply, rather than trying to switch courses a bit later on. So that'd be my advice, and it's called insideuni.org.
You know what? Don't leave the call yet, everybody, and we can Google that afterwards. But again, some more piece of valuable advice. Ailsa, what would you say? Top tip?
I think I'd say to dedicate about 2 hours a week to personal development, uni development, and really schedule that in. I love a diary. I've got my time just like blocked out all the time. But if you just put in those 2 hours a week, which is really nothing when you think about it, to either volunteer somewhere or think about things that you could be doing to help yourself in the future, or researching, like Emily said, just having a look online. And those little, that will really add up. It will suddenly click into place and you think, I know what I want to do. And then you can use those 2 hours to start writing a few things and things like that. So just dedicating that time for your future self would be really good.
Because not only will it help you, as you've alluded to there, in the study, in deciding what you want to study, but it will develop you as an individual. It's a process, isn't it? And it just doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
But the proof of the pudding, Mimi, you got to the university that you wanted. You obviously managed your process well. What would be your ultimate top tip to people in your shoes?
So mine would definitely be set yourself deadlines. Obviously, you have the big deadlines of when things are due in, but try and set yourself your own deadlines. So for me, when I decided I was going to Oxford, I decided I wanted to have my personal statement written by the end of August. So then I could dedicate September to edits and redrafts, and then I could send it in when it was due in. So just try and set yourselves those mini deadlines. So even if you only spend, like Elsa said, like 2 hours, 3 hours a week, just sort of trying to write stuff and get stuff down, don't get it right, get it written. So yes, I do. I like that. I think that's good.
Well, loads and loads of tips. And the four of my fellow panel members, they're all still smiling because they wanted to give you that piece of advice, loads of advice there, and real practical advice too. And I'm sure they all wish you well in where you're going next. But yeah, don't leave it too late. Manage that timeline, and it'll really serve you well. Thank you, wonderful panel members, my female panel members. A diolch I ti, Emily, am siarad yn Gymraeg â ni. Your advice and support and guidance is really, really valued. But obviously, Seren is there, as we heard from Mimi, to give you that further advice as well. You are not on your own. Your hub coordinators and the members of your school support team and family members, as we've just heard, they're all a support network, wanting you to do what you want to do and to do it in the best way possible so that you don't feel stressed. So that management of time will go quite swiftly and happily for you. Felly diolch yn fawr iawn i'r peder ohonoch chi. It's been lovely being in your company. And no doubt people want to Google and get onto those links immediately. Felly diolch yn fawr iawn. Ac felly, dyna ni am heno. Mae nawr yn amser I symud. It's now time for the first university exhibition slot for this conference. In this time, you can drop into rooms of any universities you're interested in and speak to members of staff who will be present to answer your questions. Just like you've heard now, people really want to be there to support you. Maen nhw gyd am roi cyngor ac arweiniad I chi. Ewch nôl I event box, y llwyfan mae'r gynhadledd mae arno, mynd i'r adran yr arddangosfa, a mae yna restr gynhwysfawr o brifysgolion na. Yes, there's a list of institutions with us tonight. Click on the university of your choice and you'll be taken through to their virtual stand. Maen nhw'n aros amdano chi. Dewiswch y brifysgol o'ch dewis chi. Many of the universities have representatives waiting to speak to you. Look out for a chat button on the exhibition stand, but alternatively, if there's no one there, there'll be contact details to point you in the right direction. So cysylltwch â nhw, meddwl gen I, am fwy wybodaeth, a byddan nhw'n yno'n barod i'ch helpu chi. Cymwch fantes o'r cyfle yma I ofyn cwestiynau ac ymchwilio ymhellach. Make sure you take advantage of this opportunity to ask them the questions you want to know about, just like you've done during this Q&A tonight, and about what studying at their institution is like. What are they looking for? When is their deadlines? When will you hear back from them? Maybe they can answer those questions. Ond cyn mynd, before you head off to that exhibition or Google those links that you had just now, can I just reflect on what this first evening has been? It's been an insightful evening. Thank you to all who've contributed. Mae di bod yn noson llawn gwybodaeth. And thank you once more to everybody for their valuable contribution. I do hope you've enjoyed it, this National Seren Academy Conference, and come and join us tomorrow for day 2 and day 3. Hopefully you've been inspired to say, please sir, I want some more. Dewch yn ôl nos yfory. Braf iawn cael eich cwmni chi heno. A hwyl fawr. Bye bye.